Good afternoon. My name is Sheila Lamb, and I'm with the Virginia SBDC Network. For those of you that are not familiar with our organization, the Virginia Small Business Development Center is a partnership program between the U.S. Small Business Administration, George Mason University, and local host institutions throughout Virginia. With 26 locations across the Commonwealth, we provide training and technical assistance to small businesses in their local communities. Our one-on-one advising services are available at no charge. Today's webinar, Managing Data, Security Breaches, and In-House Guide for Small Business Owners, is presented by the Virginia SBDC Network. Please save the date for the next webinar in our cybersecurity series, Cybersecurity Awareness Month Kickoff, Strengthening Your Business's Defense, on September 26th at 12:30 p.m., and I'll drop the registration link into the chat momentarily. We are recording today's presentation, and it will be posted on our website, virginiasbdc.org. Due to the large number of participants, everyone's microphone is muted and the chat feature is turned off. But if you have questions during the presentation, you can type those into the Q&A box and we will address them at the end of the session. We have also enabled the live transcript function, which you can show or hide via your own meeting controls. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter for today's session, Kiana Gainey. Kiana is a 20-plus year IT and cybersecurity industry veteran and has served as Chief Executive Officer for SecureTech 360, located in Springfield, Virginia, since its inception in 2010. She is also the Cyber Industry Specialist for the Virginia SBDC. Welcome, Kiana.
Thank you, Sheila, and welcome everyone. Today we're going to have a little fun before Labor Day and talk about some wonderful topics like data security breaches and some essential strategies for handling when they happen. And so we'll cover a few things and hopefully give you some tips and tricks that you can take back to your workplace and put into effect immediately. Next slide. So yes, again, thank you for the wonderful introduction. Today's webinar will really be going into some essential steps to help you in the event that you have a data breach, but also really look at it from a preventive lens as well. Next slide. So a little bit about myself and why a topic like this is so fascinating to me. I've been in the industry about 20 years, and what I've seen either from large to small is that the biggest hurdle that most businesses have when it's dealing with cybersecurity or data security is having a plan in place. And so our goal today is to make sure that you have some tools and tricks to put together an effective program or just a plan to be able to help you in the event that you have a data breach. Next slide. So the reality of it is that cyber attacks, regardless of the size, we're all at risk, right? So small businesses may feel that they're targets, may feel that they are not targets for cyber attacks. But as you're seeing every day on the news, either small or big, there's all different types of risk or even attacks that are happening for both micro and even some macro, but even some very large scale attacks. But what we've learned over the last few years is that only a small percentage of those cyber attacks are considered targeted attacks, meaning that the attacker group is not just going after a particular group or a group of companies, they're really looking to steal data, right? And some of that data can be sensitive data. It can be everything from financial information to PHI information or medical data, or it could just be simply just trying to get a customer list or even just trying to cause some type of disruption. The majority of the cyber criminals, they don't discriminate. They usually target vulnerable computer systems. And that's even if you're a Fortune 500 company or a small business or even just a home user. As you can see, like in the last few weeks, we saw a lot of interruptions, even with big companies like airlines. And it was all because of a vulnerable computer system, right, that happened with CrowdStrike, which was a provider of some of these companies. But look at the impact that it had over the actual business and even some of their customers. You saw flights canceled. You saw some organizations that sent out emails to say, hey, we were impacted by this way or that way. You just saw different things. And it was mostly because there was a vulnerable computer system. And either they said that it was, and then even but what you also saw, to the credit of CrowdStrike, is that they had a plan, right? And with that plan, They were able to implement some small micro things as they did some more investigation, and they were able to provide their customers with timely feedback, which we'll cover today. And they also had a plan on assisting those clients with being able to get their systems back online. And so as you can see that they don't discriminate, but they're sometimes just used to disrupt or also to cause issues. So we want to make sure that even as the largest CrowdStrike or some of these major airlines, even as a small business owner, we are still target for those cyber attacks as well. And we can also fall victim to it as well. Next slide. So one of the biggest things is making sure that outside of putting together a plan, but also in that plan, you need to make sure you're identifying certain vulnerabilities for your particular industry. So understanding what that is. So if you are an insurance company and you are providing a service to your customers, thinking about who will want information to that, the information that you have, right? Making sure that if you're using any type of technology or applications, make sure that one, you're not using any outdated software. So when you see those updates that say, update your software packages, update certain things, make sure you're doing that regularly. Also, implementing some type of password policy so that you're not using weak passwords. And also one of my biggest key, regardless of the size of your organization, one of the biggest or greatest weapons that any organization can have is some type of employee training. And that can be as simple as doing that in your initial onboarding of that employee, and then also having those regular updates. And then even incorporating those into like your weekly staff meetings, or if you're just a party of one, there's so much education and training out there. And so making sure that you do your research and making sure that you put together a plan, even in a simple section within your business plan to say, this is how I plan on protecting the information systems that I'm using, making sure that I'm, updating my software regularly, making sure that I'm having a password policy or using some of the multi-factor authentication or all in different type of mechanisms, and making sure that you're trained on those and even understanding how to be able to keep those things up to date. And then also what you can do is conduct regular security assessments of your system. So just like when there are any other updates to your business, you should constantly be looking at if you're introducing new technologies into your infrastructure, if you're introducing new employees to your infrastructure. Let's say you go from being an online business and then now all of a sudden you have a physical location, right? You need to account for where your business is at that point of time. So making sure you're doing a constant update to those plans and then doing a regular assessment as well. I also recommend doing maybe a tabletop exercise with your employees to make sure that they understand things like phishing attacks or social engineering. That was another thing that took down MGM. It was a social engineering attack. It wasn't something sophisticated. It wasn't some fancy software. It was someone giving out information and they gave it to the wrong person, and the person was able to cause a major disruption to a big organization. So as you can see, that's another example. And that can be something that can happen to us even as small business owners. But the importance of having a clear understanding on what type of data you have in your infrastructure, how you're processing it, how you're storing it, how you need to protect it, right? And then even with some of even our government clients, there are standards that tell you how to protect that data, how long you can store that data. So making sure you put together even like a data privacy plan or a data policy, a data security policy for your organization, and making sure that you put that in either your employee training so they know how to protect that data, how to store it, how long to keep it, what to do if it's sensitive data. It can be something as simple as I've saw even small organizations put together, even at the bottom of their emails, right? They'll put the classification or what type of data if it's something that's sensitive. And then they'll also put instructions on how to protect that data. So even if you're sending something out and you're sending out something to your customers or to the community that you serve, you have something in place that they understand how to protect that data. And that even goes even with your websites. You've probably seen it even on some websites that you visit. There's privacy policies on how long that data, where that data is being protected, how it's being stored. And even if you're using other technologies, make sure you take the time to read their privacy policies, because there's another way that you can be introducing vulnerabilities into your small business. So those are just some tips and tricks that you can implement as you're thinking about how to protect yourself in the event of a data breach, but really using prevention as the cure. Next slide. So one of the key things in the event of a data breach is learning how to respond effectively. And that can mean different things for different organizations. So the importance of having an incident response plan in place before a breach occurs. So that can be something as simple as a key person roster that have names and numbers to call in the event that something happens. Also, what to do if this happens. So let's say you fall victim to a data being leaked somewhere. What would you do in the event that that data is linked? Who should you contact? Who's impacted by that data leak? What customers you need to make sure knows what's going on. I know I've seen them in the mail when there's a data breach that occurs. So let's say with a larger organization, they'll send out and say, hey, a data breach occurred, but don't worry, we're going to make sure you have a year of credit reporting, and this is how we were able to contain it, and this is how we're going to, protect your data moving forward. Although it's great to get those after something happens, think about with your small business. What would you do in that event? That could have been something that they had in their policies to say, we're going to reach out to our community through correspondence. We're going to make sure that we pay for some type of credit repair if something happens. It doesn't have to be that extreme, but that's just the point that I'm making, is that they had a plan in place. And so the key steps into your response plan is making sure that you have some way to detect things, how to identify if a breach has even occurred. Because sometimes it could be a miscommunication. So you should have a list of what would you consider a breach and how to identify it. And who to contact to verify if a breach definitely occurred. And then also containment. That's steps to limit the impact of the breach, right? You don't want to make the breach worse. You've seen it where people do the reply all to an email, and let's say that's an affected email. That email is now sent and broadcast over so many different places. So now that email can also now, keep a breach, maybe a breach that was probably, very small, now has become a larger breach. So you want to make sure you have steps to limit the impact of a breach. And then eradication, removing the cause of the breach from your system. So if it's something that you have there that's causing the breach, making sure you remove it so that it doesn't spread even more. And then last but not least is recovery, restoring and validating if it's a information system back to its integrity. So that's why it's important to have things like backups. I know we didn't really discuss that earlier, but one of the other preventive things that you can do is always be backing up your data and information so that if, in the event that a breach happens, you can restore back to the point that you need to restore, but you also need to validate if that restoration is complete. And also another key to even when you're putting together your plan is that when you create a backup and recovery plan, but to test those backups. So you'll be so surprised how we go in and we look at organizations, they say, oh yeah, we have a backup policy and we do backups. And then we say, well, when was the last time you backed it up? Oh, I don't know, right? So anything, how do you know that those backups are even legitimate? And so you don't want to wait until something happens to validate if those backups that you have spent money and time doing are even valid, right? And so they could be very key to your recovery. And then the importance of communications, notifying all affected parties. And then if you do have a public relation piece of it, making sure you manage that as well. You saw even with, go back to CrowdStrike, you saw the CEO come out first and he was able to talk about what was going on in real time. He was able to communicate the messaging so that he can manage the public relations behind it as well. So he probably contacted all the stakeholders first before he went to the news about it, because you wouldn't want to hear about a breach through a news outlet before you heard it from your stakeholder or from the customers that you support. So think about that. I always say, put yourself in a position of where would you want to be in the event that an emergency happened or a breach happened. You want to make sure that all of the affected parties find out prior to you going on the news or, someone else reporting that something happened. And then last but not least, document your breach and your response. This will definitely help with your future learning, your lessons learned. You can incorporate that into your training so that even in the event that something happens, you know what to do. And maybe there were things that was in the plan that happened that you say, okay, we did step 1 through 4, but when we got to 2, we saw that 2 was no longer needed, or we need to add some additional steps to make sure that we are meeting what we need for our incident response plan. So those are all key to being able to be prepared in the event that a breach happens, and making sure you have a plan in place, making sure your employees are trained on that plan as well, and making sure that anytime there's a major breach or something happens that you're documented for future learning. Next slide. So another key, I'm going to keep foot stomping on the importance of implementing preventive measures and what you can do. I mean, the world that we're living in, everything is interconnected. We're using technology for many aspects of our business now. We're using it to process credit cards. We're using it to do email. So that's, one of our main lines of communication. We're using it just to, function as a business. So one of the most important preventive measures you can do is making sure you regularly update your software. You make sure that you're using patch management if you have like larger servers or different things in your infrastructure. Making sure you implement strong password policies when available, or depending on your budget, use multi-factor authentication. But in the place of not being able to use multi-factor authentication, you can definitely implement a strong password policy. And then also make sure that, don't make it so stringent that people are writing them down and then they're leaving them in, out in the office where people can pick them up, right? So you want to make it to where they're strong enough that they're not easily, can be easily, easily use, but you want to make sure that they are, effective, that anybody just can't guess it, right? And then last but not least, you want to make sure that you're doing employee training on recognizing phishing attempts and having safe data practices, which means if, when you get those emails, and now you're even getting them through text, but that's more of a smishing attempt, smishing, phishing, all the same attempts to be able to gather information or data. You'll see them, they'll look very close to maybe something that's legitimate, but usually they come with an urgent message, respond now, or send $1 million, or things that just seem off the wall. I always use the rule of thumb. If it's not something I would do in my regular everyday life, I wouldn't just allow a stranger to knock on my door and say, hey, give me everything out of your purse right now. I wouldn't do that, right? It's the same thing when you get these texts, these random emails. Make sure you're validating and verifying anyone that's asking you for information. Make sure your employees understand that if someone's calling and they're saying we need something right now. I've even seen some emails that'll look like it's coming from a trusted source, but then you look at the email and you're like, why would Bob from accounting be contacting me about HR data? That doesn't seem right. That's not my job function. That's not what I do. So why would this random email come? Usually if something is random, that means it's more than likely a phishing attempt. So I always say use some of the traditional methods. Pick up the phone, call, make sure that it's a real person that's requesting the information before you send out any type of sensitive information. And where you can, utilize encryption for sensitive data, both at rest or in transit, which means that if there's a way to encrypt the information that you're trying to send over that's very sensitive, that'll give it another layer of protection. So you want to be able to layer things up. Think about it like in a winter coat, right? When it's cold outside, a sweater may do it, and you may not be as cold, but let's say it starts, raining and you may need an umbrella. And let's say it starts snowing and maybe you need a coat, right? That's how you can think about implementing different type of security measures or preventive measures to be able to help you keep your data safe. And then last but not least, conducting those regular security audits. Where applicable, there is some pen testing to help be able to identify and fix potential weaknesses. But I understand with small businesses, depending on your mission, depending on the customers that you serve, that may be a little extreme. So you can do simple things like a tabletop, like we discussed earlier. Always updating your documentation, making sure your employees are trained, especially when there's new things that's being introduced to your environment, or when a breach happens, that you're making sure you update that as well. And if you're doing things like backup and recovery, testing those backups regularly, making sure that they're, they're good and legitimate. And then also, if you do have a large network, making sure you're implementing things like network segmentation to limit access to sensitive information. So if you can air gap and make sure that maybe one part of your network is just used for sensitive information and another is not, those are things that you can do as well. You'll see that more on more agencies that have very sensitive data. They'll segment it to make sure that that's another layer of protection as well. So those are all preventive measures that you can put in place to make sure that as you're putting together this guide or you're putting together these policies, that these are things that you should consider for your mission and how it impacts your small business. Next slide. Also, another big thing, navigating legal requirements after a breach. So this really goes for people that are using very sensitive information in their infrastructure. There may be some HIPAA laws. There may be some things for GDPR. It just really depends. So making sure, one, that you are educated on the regulations that you're using within your environment is very key and crucial. Making sure that you're documenting what those regulatory requirements are, and then making sure that you have a step-by-step on what to do in the event of a breach, and then making sure that your employees know what to do in accordance to those data protection laws as is relevant to your small business. And then if there are some obligations for reporting, so depending on the regulatory bodies, some affected individuals, they have to report, and then there's a time on how long or when you should do it or who you should report it to. Making sure you document those in your small business guide will definitely be key. So as you can see, the reoccurring theme is to be prepared, put preventive measures in place, and also always doing regular updates. Where it's applicable, make sure that if you can consult, someone in advance, maybe legal counsel, to ensure compliance with all these regulations are also key, so that you can really, address any potential legal consequences of failing to comply with data protection laws. So it's very crucial to to understand what those regulatory bodies are saying that you have to do. So making sure that you are complying with it, and make sure that you always keep up to date with them as well. So for myself, because I do a lot of privacy information, I even make it a practice I have a Google alert to give me any regular updates about some of the data protection laws as it relates to some of those regulatory bodies. And we're constantly always looking for updates from some of the sites that are provided on what to do, so that we're always regularly updating our documentation so that we are always in compliance with the regulatory bodies. And then also we translate that into the training for our employees, either on an initial when they're first onboarded, and then we do reoccurring training as needed. Next slide. So some key takeaways: preparation is key. Implementing proactive measures such as regular security audits, employee training, incident response planning. All these things are really to minimize your risk, right? There's not a one size fits all. It's definitely a case-by-case basis based on 2, your budget, 3, your customers, 3, your actual business and business requirements. But put it together just very similar to how you put together your business plan and you have it outlined. Is very key to having a security plan that address data protection strategies, because data is one of the most crucial part of how we conduct our business. And then also making sure that we have, incident response that is very crucial, time sensitive, making sure that we're acting quickly to contain, making sure that we're validating, assessing the breaches. Time is critical in reducing the impact, preventing further damage. Also communicating properly and clearly to the affected parties. Again, you don't want to hear, just like you wouldn't want to hear about a breach from a news outlet. You want to make sure that you are, keeping your customers and your stakeholders all informed in the event that there's a breach, and doing it very quickly. Making sure that you're doing a thorough investigation, conduct a comprehensive investigation to identify the cause. So let's look at what caused it. Is there something that we could have prevented? To what extent does this breach have to other things that I'm doing within my small business? What is the impact of that breach, right? Ensuring that you have documented lessons learned, that those weaknesses are being addressed. And then last but not least, doing a post-breach review and improvement. Use the breach. It's unfortunate if a breach happens, but if it does happen, use the breach as a learning opportunity to, one, strengthen your security measures, update policies, and enhance your overall resilience of your systems. And so as you're seeing how things are just even playing out daily with some of the cyber risk or cyber incidents that are happening, there are opportunities for us to learn from either use cases or folks that have had issues in the past. I always research. If let's say I'm in the healthcare industry, I look at recent use cases of healthcare industries that have experienced a data breach. What lessons learned? What policies that they have in place? What kind of things can I do to strengthen my security measures? So doing that same type of mindset when you're thinking about putting together a plan for your organization, and then also updating that plan regularly, also making sure that your employees trained, are all very key to being able to have preventive measures in place to help in the event that there's a breach. Next slide. So I know I went over a lot very quickly, but to wrap it up, remember, a strong, well-executed response can, one, mitigate the impact of a data security breach, and turn a potential crisis that maybe could have, can help you in the future, use it as a lesson learned or growth opportunity to improve your organization's data security posture, but also to make sure that you understand all the regulations, all of the data security requirements for, even if it's something that you're doing with a regulatory body, making sure that you're well educated on that, and then making sure that you understand, what the process and procedures are very key. So as you can see, throughout the whole theme is always going to be preparation, research, lessons learned, making sure that you are doing your regular updates. And these are things that are low cost, but they also just the major thing that it will cost you is just a little time, a little preparation, putting some pen to paper, and then making sure that your employees are trained as well. Any questions?
We've had one question two questions so far. So let's see, Kiana. The first one was, would you recommend using a UBI key, YUBI?
So depending on what you want to use the UBI key for, if you can give me an example or a use case, because any type of tool or anything that you're going to use within your environment, it has to make sense for your environment, right? You don't want to, I always use the analogy of a door. The lock is your first, method to, keep people out. Some people may put a chain, some people put a keyhole, some people even use the Ring doorbell. It just depends on what you want to use it for. And if it's something that's going to be a preventive strategy, or it's going to be something that's going to protect your data, if you're going to use it as a form of encryption, then the answer would be yes. If it's a requirement based on a regulatory body to have some type of encryption mechanism in place, and it meets the standard based on your use case, I always say read the privacy policy, read the terms of conditions, and make sure that it's something that you can utilize in your environment, and that it won't introduce additional risk to your environment, right? You don't want to introduce something new. I always find it interesting in people that have like glass doors, right? You have a glass door, right? Someone can easily probably, throw something through the glass, but maybe you like it because it cosmetically look great for you, right? Is that a best use case for everyone? No, but maybe because you have that glass door, you put additional things in place. Maybe you'll put a Ring camera in, maybe you'll put maybe some type of encryption on the lockbox. It could be different things, right? So it really depends on your environment and what the use case is for your organization. So I hope I answered your question.
Um, and let's see. So I'm going to read the next one. I'm not sure if there's a question here, but I'm just going to read it, and if you want to elaborate.
Okay.
So the attendee started out, this is a scary subject to many people.
Yes.
Recommend talking about outsourcing, transferring risk, and how many small businesses have already potentially transferred this risk without realizing it. Example, website host is going to do a lot of this.
Yes.
Elaborate.
So although I'll go with the website hosting, right? You're using a website host, or maybe you're using some type of cloud-based application, and that's where you do, and they have, integrated security measures within those applications, within that web host. You're Even though they guarantee, or maybe they'll say they'll put some things in place to let's say your risk is this much, and then it gives you this much protection, you can't necessarily transfer all your risks to these technologies or to these applications, because look in the example that I used with MGM and CrowdStrike. They can't just, say, well, we put something in place and, that should have been all the protection we need. No, people were still upset with those organizations because, one, you disrupted my travel, you disrupted my flow of operation, my flow of business. And so even with the government agencies, the owner of that data is responsible for the securing that data, right? So you can't transfer risk. You can put things in place that can help mitigate certain things, but always be mindful that if data is leaked from your organization, they're not going to say, oh, it was the web host that did it. They're going to say, it was business B that leaked my data. It was business B that didn't read the terms and conditions. It was business B that employees wasn't trained, right? If you were at MGM and you were checking in and you found out that you couldn't get access to your hotel because someone gave out some information at a help desk, you're going to be upset that you couldn't get into that hotel, right? So you have to think about it from that lens. So as you're thinking about putting together policies and procedures, remember, as the business owner, you are ultimately responsible for your client's data, for protecting that data, for making sure that it's stored. So again, doing your due diligence and there's things that you can put into place. I've seen organizations that had very stringent policies and procedures. They acted quickly. They were able to recover very fast. They had things, both active and passive, things that were preventive in nature, but also help when there was things that were happening. They were able to respond and get things done quickly. But to the customers that were disrupted by that, they don't care about all of that. They just care about what happened and how, what you plan on doing in the future. So as we're starting to think about, even as a small business owner, it's important to put things into place, but don't think that you can just transfer all your risk. And I hope I didn't get on my soapbox on that.
No, that was a good soapbox. Okay, we have another question that has dropped in. What would you recommend to businesses that use all cloud-only services like Office 365 and Gmail, and don't have any data stored on premises? And then continuing, is any opportunity for security hardening aside from employee training?
Yes. So as we're using all these cloud only services, Office 365, Gmail, great resources, great, things that we can use in our organization. But I would challenge every business owner to read the policies and the privacy policies and terms of conditions, because it clearly states where they're responsible for and what they're not responsible for. And so it's still up to you as the data owner, as the business owner, as the person that your customers are entrusting that information to make sure that you have protections in place. Definitely use every integrated security function within those applications, because they'll say, hey, we put out new patches. You didn't patch your device. You didn't patch the application. So now that there's a breach, if you were on version 5, maybe you wouldn't, the hacker wouldn't be able to circumvent your infrastructure because you wasn't on version 5. You were on version 3. You didn't do version 3. You should have did all the way up to all the different versions. So you have to still have policies and procedures on how you plan on protecting your data depending on your industry and the regulatory body. So it's a lot. When you think about it, right? You have, depending on the industry that you're in, there's a regulatory body that say you must have, you must comply with, you must meet these minimum standards, right? The technologies and applications that you use can either make it easier for you to conduct business, but it doesn't transfer the responsibility. You still are ultimately responsible. So great resources to use. I'm still a little old school in my even thought process. I still back up things to physical drives and I lock those physical drives, even in a different location. I still put locks on my servers because, again, with all the different technical measures that's in the cloud, there are still things that resonate to maybe I want to store and not keep on the cloud. So if there's things that are very sensitive in nature, I don't store it to a cloud device. I'll store it to maybe a local device that I have access to and that have very limited access. And then I set up things like role-based access for that server or for that equipment so that I know, and I put audit logs on it so I know exactly who's logging into it, what time. And then I also even restrict, okay, and don't think I'm paranoid, but I always sometimes even restrict things to business hours, right? If the business hour or function is only 9 to 5, I'm suspicious if someone's logging in at 10 p.m. every day for 5 days. Now there's a conversation. Why are you logging in at 10 p.m.? So now I'm thinking, so I'm always constantly thinking about even with people in your organization, even not necessarily even outsiders, but making sure that even people that have access to sensitive information, because I'm ultimately responsible. They're not going to say, Billy from Secure Tech 360 did the data leak. They're going to say, Kiana Gainey of Secure Tech 360, who was the CEO, is responsible for my data, right? So it's my job to make sure that Billy understands what regulations, what things we have to keep into place, and making sure that my security is very stringent. So outside of doing security hardening, doing your regular updates, doing your training, using different tools like multi-factor authentication, encryption is another tool, and even using some of the scenarios, like even if you can't segment your networks and you don't have a large network like that, maybe there's things that you will do, maybe having a stringent policy on what things you will store on Office 365 versus Gmail, different things. So it just really depends on your organization. But the best thing you can do is put something together, train your folks, put preventive measures, and then always, always, always make sure that you're updating it based on the regulatory bodies or the information that you're protecting. I hope I didn't get on my soapbox again.
I thought that was good. So we don't have any other questions, but we do have time. So if there are any more questions, go ahead and drop them in. I'm going to go to our next slide, which has links and resources. And just so you know, you do not have to copy these down because we will be sending out a follow-up email with the link to these slides and to the recording. So you'll have all of this handy.
Yes.
But there's no questions right now. So Kiana, do you want to just touch on any of these resources?
Yes. So these are wonderful resources outside. I'm going to do another shameless plug. Outside of our wonderful website, we have a lot of links, a lot of different trainings and webinars that you can attend, past and present, that can help you put together everything that you need for your small business, not even just for cyber, but there's things that maybe you say, hey, this is all new to me. I don't know much about putting together an HR department or putting together, accounting, there are so many different webinars and information that's there to support you as a small business. And there are a lot of unutilized services that small business owners don't take advantage of, and they spend thousands of dollars on consultants for things that you can get for free. So my shameless plug there is one. SBA.
Can I interrupt you 1 second?
Yes.
I'm sorry, we had a question drop in. I think
Yes.
I think everyone will benefit from this question.
Okay.
Well, the next webinar mentioned go into more detail about the topics touched on in this webinar.
Yes.
Will you be diving a little deeper?
Yes. So as if you see that as there's almost a method to the madness, you'll see me talk about certain things, and then I'll follow up to make sure that there's a deeper dive as it relates to some of the questions or things that you guys want to know. And that also goes to if there are topics that you want us to cover that we haven't covered. Maybe you say, hey, I come here and I don't hear much about, insurance. And I'm really concerned by, I want to understand what I can do with, cyber insurance. That is another tool. I don't think I discussed that on this call, but that could be another tool that you can use in the event that there's a data breach, that you have some resources available to help you with recovery, or even if there's, damage or things of that nature. And you may even have that currently in your, as a feature or option within your current general business insurance. But if you don't, ask the questions to your insurance representative. Maybe you don't know, or maybe it could be for $10 more, you can have that insurance as well. So those are the type of things that we'll dig deeper into. And as we are moving closer to Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which is my favorite month of the year for cybersecurity, there are so many webinars, so much training. 20 years ago, a lot of this stuff was just like a foreign language, but now in today's, with all of our systems being interconnected, so many organizations are taking the time to document and to provide free training, to give free training, to show you how to be prepared for some of the things that we talked about. The FTC is great. CISA is a whole agency that was stood up by the government, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. They have so much information, and it's free. Can I say that again? Mm-hmm. And it's free.
Nice.
And so take advantage of that as well. But yes, our webinars will address a deeper dive into some of these things. And if you have any questions, you can always email as well, and we can send you some information offline. Maybe you say, I went back and I thought about it, and I know this part, but I don't know that part. We're here to help you with that as well.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think you did touch on these links and resources. Is there anything else? We have about 15 more minutes and no questions. So if there's anything else you wanted to share quickly?
Yeah, so just to wrap it with a nice bow is that, the world that we live in is very data driven. I always like to use the term that data is like the new currency. And so everybody's after it. Everybody's trying to get it. People use it for different reasons. Some people use it just to capture information, to be able to sell back to other organizations, to be able to market certain things, to you. And that's their business model. So if you can imagine that if the data has become its own business model, the importance of protecting the data that you have, a responsibility to your customers and your stakeholders, is even more reason why you should have a policy plan to continue to do your regular updates, to continue to, train your employees, and continue to attend webinars like this, to be able to keep yourself knowledgeable about the industry as a whole, are definitely going to be key as we're moving into, different, even new languages, AI, machine learning, which is all data driven, right? So as you're starting to see, data is here to stay. So knowing how to protect the data that you have responsibility for is key to being able to, it's the new currency. So it's key to you keeping, your business or reoccurring business going. So that's my little plug with data.
It's great. Well, we had no other questions drop in, so I guess I will wrap us up. I appreciate, Kiana, all the information you always give us. I think it's all important. And I also think it's always good to keep having these reminders.
Yes, yes,
The
yes.
nudges, right? So, but I do want to thank you, and I want to thank everyone who attended today. As a reminder, you will receive an email with a link to the recording and to the slides. If you would like to sign up for upcoming webinars or access recorded webinars, please visit virginiasbdc.org/training. This webinar and other SBD resources are designed to be used in collaboration with your local SBDC advisors. You can sign up for a free and confidential session by emailing help@virginiasbdc.org or via our website. And we do hope to see you all at our next session. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much. Enjoy
Take
your
care.
Labor Day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.